Age of Men is over. The time of the Orc has come.
Alright, hello YouTube, and welcome back to the Grease Goblins YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to go over what if Gandalf had actually not fallen in Moria. So say we go back to the Bridge of Khazad-dûm, and instead the Balrog just falls. The Balrog does not whip Gandalf, and the party continues on and they survive. Or they continue on with Gandalf. Now this is a major change, because if this happens, a lot of things are much different. So to start off with, the biggest thing we would know right away is that the Balrog would not die. And that's the biggest thing. So then what would the Balrog do after its fall? And we know even with Gandalf, the Balrog is going to try to find its way out. And it's going to wreak some havoc, you would think. It knows that the ring is there. It would probably look for revenge on Gandalf. So I don't think the Fellowship is just scot-free. I think this would actually be the event that would cause the Balrog to leave Moria. Now, some people, I mean, if you're one of these people, let me know down in the comments, would argue that maybe the Balrog would just stay in isolation and just stay in Moria and its domain. I think that's possible as well, but I find it far more likely that the Balrog would pursue the Fellowship with the power of the ring being so close by, and the Balrog knowing that and sensing that sort of power, and also the idea that it would want revenge on Gandalf. But before we get further into our change and our new route through history, if you guys like to like, subscribe, and comment, please do. It helps the channel grow. Reach people that might like this content as well. So, continuing on. The Fellowship continues as usual. Now, the only main difference here is going to be that Gandalf is in the main situation of the party. So, I think what would have ended up happening is that Gandalf leads the Fellowship to Lothlorien. Now, the big thing would be, how quickly does the Balrog get out? We know that in the main story, Balrog and Gandalf have this battle that lasts for a few days. The Balrog, knowing how to get out of the pits of Moria, I think would pose a very interesting question. Would Galadriel and the Lothlorien, people as a whole, the Galadrim, would they even let the Fellowship in? Because, again, presumably a Balrog would be chasing them, or at least hunting them. And that is the biggest question, because if Durin's Bane chases them to Lothlorien, how would that go? Would Gandalf, Galadriel, all these people combine their forces and try and take down the Balrog? Would the Balrog maybe be unable to track them? Maybe Lothlorien's natural defenses would be a big help. And I think in this scenario, I think we're going to say that putting all these forces together, with, some of the most strongest beings in Middle-earth, with Celeborn and Galadriel and Gandalf all combined here, that they're able to defeat the Balrog without any of them maybe dying. And let's say that's what happens. Now, the biggest thing with this is going to be, the Fellowship at this point, their secrecy was already kind of gone, but now it's like you've painted a big X on your back. The Balrog coming out of Moria would have been something that would have been very interesting to Sauron. It would have put a lot of focus on what was going on there. And in my opinion, that would have made the journey even tougher. So, we now look at what would the company have done after they leave Lothlorien. I think this is where we have the biggest change. Because with Gandalf still alive and still with the Fellowship, I don't think Frodo goes on by his own. I think we actually see something much different. I think we could have seen a situation where Frodo, Sam, and Gandalf head out to destroy the ring, because Aragorn was never really going to go to Mount Doom. He was always supposed to go to Gondor, so that was kind of his mission. He wanted to go with Boromir to help Gondor defend against Mordor, and kind of come into his role as king. So that was what he was going to do. Legolas and Gimli also share these same sympathies of rather taking the east side of the river, going on the west, and going towards Gondor. And Merry and Pippin would be an interesting case. I think Gandalf probably would not allow them to go. I think Gandalf would realize he would want to release a smaller party trying to sneak into Mordor. And I think that's the way that would whole thing shift. I think Merry and Pippin may be sent back to Rivendell, maybe against their wills. Maybe they even try to follow Frodo, Sam, and Gandalf. But I think what would have eventually happened is I think Frodo would have said, you guys need to go back, because I just don't see a way where all 4 hobbits go with Gandalf. So in this situation, let's say some of our party goes in the west side of the Anduin and takes that path down to Gondor, and then Merry and Pippin maybe go back up to Rivendell, or they go to the Shire, and then Gandalf, Sam, and Frodo all continue on the east. So, with this being said now, what changes? And there's actually a lot. Let's think about what Gandalf does after he is brought back and becomes Gandalf the White. He helps awaken the Ents to go against Sauron, and that whole plot that ends up going down there. He actively works against Sauron and helping Rohan prepare for war, getting Theoden out of his spell. In this situation, Gandalf is not here for any of that. Another thing that would be vastly different is Boromir probably would not die in this situation, because Boromir, again, would not have had to protect the hobbits because they wouldn't have been running off in the forest. So they still possibly, the Fellowship gets ambushed, but I think it goes much different because they probably all would have been together outside of, instead of them being all separated, I think it would have gone much different. Also, Gandalf is still here. Things go much differently on that, maybe an ambush that we see at the, I guess, start of Two Towers, end of Fellowship. And with that being said, I think this actually makes it to where Middle-earth is in a much worse position. Because if Gandalf is on the east side of the Anduin, and he's not able to help Rohan or the Ents, anything going on there, Rohan falls. Sauron would win. Now, he wouldn't have the ring, but Sauron would crush Rohan. There's just no hope there. Also, there would be no reason for Aragorn to really go to Rohan, because, again, they would be heading towards Gondor. They'd have no reason to start going back towards Rohan at that point. So, again, I think Rohan is, at this point, just screwed. Isengard has the vastly superior numbers. There'd be nobody to help fix Theoden's mind. I think Sauron just steamrolls Rohan. Now, how does that then impact the rest of the story? Well, obviously, we know that Rohan had a huge role to play in defeating Sauron at Pelennor Fields. If they are dead and all gone, Gondor is going to fall. Regardless of Aragorn being there, maybe he is able to unite more of Gondor. It's not going to matter. Rohan was really the big thing that was able to change that battle, as well as Aragorn was able to take out the Corsairs as well. So, to me, I think Gandalf actually surviving in the Mines of Moria is to the detriment of the world, because yes, maybe Gandalf would have been able to help Frodo and Sam navigate more easily and more comfortably, but even then, when you get to where they're trying to get into Mordor, would Sauron, very similarly to the Balrog, have sensed Gandalf's presence? That's another interesting question. And I think the whole idea of sneaking into Mordor would be a lot more impossible when you have this beacon of power. It's talked about with Glorfindel, and the reason he doesn't go with the party, because it would draw far too much attention to the party. And I think that's also similar to Gandalf as well. So I think, long story short, if this was to happen, Sauron would conquer Middle-earth, and we go into an Age of Darkness. Even if Gandalf, Frodo, and Sam all get into Mordor and get to Mount Doom, Frodo is not going to be able to throw away the ring, and I find it hard to believe that Gollum would have any worth to someone like Frodo or Sam for keeping him with their party, because they already have a guide. They have Gandalf. So again, I don't really see any outcome where the ring gets destroyed. I think actually what would happen is something similar. Say they somehow get to Mount Doom, and again, we have to play off the idea that there's not going to be any distraction. There's not going to be no Aragorn force at the Black Gate to distract and kind of put a lot of Sauron's forces there instead of all scattered within Mordor. So that then would probably lead to them being caught way before they do, or at least being spotted. And if that's true, the mission's a fail. So again, long story short, the Fellowship fail. And that's what I talk about with a video like Sauron, how he used his strategy to win, or, well, and how he should have won the War of the Ring. In reality, he should have won. His strategy was perfect. And one minor misstep in how things happen, like Gandalf surviving in the Mines of Moria, it completely shifts events. Because even Saruman had played his strategy perfectly when it came to defeating Rohan, that Gandalf not being there means everything goes how they should have. So thank you guys all for watching. Let me know what you guys think. I think there's a couple things that I think could be very debatable, like Merry and Pippin. What is their role? Like, what do they do after this point? I think a lot of you could make the argument that Merry and Pippin would just never abandon Frodo. I think it's a valid argument. I just think that Frodo and Sam, or maybe not Sam, but Frodo and Gandalf would really harness into him. You can't go. There's that. And then the other also thing would be the Balrog and how that situation would be concluded. Would the Balrog go back to Moria? Would the Balrog be defeated by Galadriel, or I guess the other characters within Lothlorien? Is there maybe another scenario where the Balrog and Sauron maybe make a mutual like pact? It could be interesting. It could be very interesting to see what happens there. But let me know what you guys all think, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Bye, guys.